Lewis Thompson here with FinTech Magazine. I'm with John Duigenan at IBM Technology and Shanker Ramamurthy at IBM Consulting. Gentlemen, great to speak with you here today. And I know you've recently released a new study, Shanker, on your guys' end, surveying how sort of FinServ CEOs are implementing Gen AI and their outlooks on it. What can you tell us about it?
Hey, thank you for the question. We just indeed completed our annual survey, CEO study. We spoke to over 2,500 CEOs, of which over 300 were from banking clients around the world. And we found some very interesting statistics. By the way, 60% of the CEOs talked about generative AI as a strategic priority for them at an enterprise level. Now, the reason that particular statistic is interesting is only recently we released another study. And in that study, we found that 8% of banks are implementing generative AI on an enterprise scale, while 80% are only doing pilots and proof of concepts. So what is interesting for us from the most recently concluded survey is that at least 60% of banks are now going to be addressing generative AI on an enterprise scale as we go to the rest of the year and into 2025. Huge. And that's very much aligned with what we in IBM see as the potential for generative AI. So that's one interesting finding. The second finding I'd highlight is about 50% of the CEOs talked about talent and their inability to attract the right technology talent in particular to address the opportunities coming out of generative AI. And in fact, when we talk to our clients about what they need to do in generative AI, we talk about all the technology things, but we also talk about the talent aspects. How do you get the whole enterprise, leveraging what is possible from generative AI? And so for CEOs, that's a big issue. The third important finding is that over 75% of the CEOs talked about ecosystem and partnering and collaboration to achieve the outcomes from generative AI. And that resonates for us as IBMers, for John and I, because that's the focus area for IBM. Our CEO and chairman's been all about partnership and ecosystems. And it's important to bring that dimension to the fore as CEOs try and unlock the economic value for generative AI. We couldn't be more excited about the potential here. And John and I are keen to help banking clients around the world unlock the potential of generative AI by implementing the right technology capabilities from IBM Technology and by leveraging our consulting capabilities. The future beckons, and we are truly excited.
So, John, obviously the application of Gen AI for financial institutions are vast, and many are working out sort of the best use cases for that still. How do you see its role in, I guess, the broader finance and, I guess, cross-border payment services too?
That's a great question, Louis. Thank you. If I think about every financial services firm on the planet, they're either trying to grow or save money. Grow the business, save money. So when we think about generative AI, we have to think along those lines, always within that context. Otherwise, why are we doing generative AI at all? We're not painting photographs or doing work that doesn't matter, isn't important to one of those two priorities. And everything we do about generative AI must be done in the context of trust and regulation. So I and Shanker think about three classes of use cases. First, of course, removing friction from customer experience. Every financial services firm on the planet, no matter what business they're in, and no matter who their customers or clients, are improving customer experience. Hyper-personalized, hyper-contextual, instant relevant recommendations, instant decisions, instant fulfillment across any available channel, always in the context of who I am and what I'm trying to do. Second, massive space, employee productivity, digital labor. That is renovating and automating the massively manual back office processes running across every financial services firm that cost thousands of people doing manual work. So applying generative AI to conversationally orchestrate and integrate across multiple back-end systems, there is massive value in that. And then, of course, we think of application development and IT operations. The world's financial institutions are full of code that was written 50 years ago. That's a huge issue, and we're here to help firms by making that code well understood, rewriting requirements and documentation that maybe has been lost along the way, and of course, translating and validating that code into new programming languages like Beta COBOL or Java. And the productivity associated with that is very, very significant. Creating developer productivity, at least of 60% improvement, is huge for any firm, and doing it with quality, a quality of a generative AI model that's specifically built for programming languages. There's nothing beats it.
Fantastic. And I know both of you will know this too, but obviously the scope and I guess the use at which Gen AI can be implemented is dependent on regulation. We've got the upcoming EU AI Act. How is that going to change from an IBM standpoint?
But regulations are a huge theme. John talked about operations. Now, part of operations, you can think of risk and regulatory compliance as a huge theme, and generative AI is being, on the business side, being applied widely to address opportunities and challenges around risk and regulatory compliance. And that's a very broad schema, right? Everything from AML, KYC, cyber, all the various kind of risks. Now, that's on one side of the ledger. On the other side of the ledger, and this is, John spends a lot of time kind of thinking and talking about this, how do you use AI on a safe basis? How do you ensure it's reliable? That's a big area of focus. And John, you want to kind of talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so when I specifically think about the EU AI Act, I'm giving a keynote here tomorrow in Amsterdam on that very topic. And so I first think about it, the EU have moved swiftly, and it's important that they did because the need for transparent, trusted AI used by enterprises is vast. It's huge. Consumers need to be able to trust AI. So the EU was smart in terms of defining what is AI, right? We all think we know what it is, but it's automated systems that make decisions that impact human lives. Very helpful way of thinking about AI. Then a risk classification framework that takes a multi-tiered approach and bans the use of certain AI for commercial purposes. For example, facial recognition, because of its potential to discriminate. Third piece of it that I think is valuable is that there's now a whole assessment framework for how firms assess and measure their AI. And last, of course, the thing that's going to hurt some companies are the penalties. 7% of global turnover in some cases, or 35 million euros. And at IBM, we've been relentlessly working on this. We see AI as a team sport. We've fostered an open community around how AI gets built, and always within the context of trust and regulation, because almost every one of our clients is regulated. And so What's-Next.governance, specifically our governance capability on the What's-Next platform, specifically lines up with the characteristics and principles of the AI Act. And we are ready to take our clients, help our clients on that journey.
Fantastic. I guess from the drawbacks with regulation, looking ahead to what your clients really want, which is to, I guess, boost that customer experience and leveraging Gen AI in that way. For you, I mean, obviously every bank's needs are independent on their particular circumstances. But for you, are there any sort of broad areas where you're seeing your clients wanting a similar type of service?
Oh, for sure. Very briefly, and I'll hand to you in a second. I mean, I think one thing that's really important here, Louis, regulation can be a downside. I prefer to think of it as a competitive advantage. Firms that can demonstrate that they are doing trusted AI well are going to create positive perception. So we can think of regulation as horrendous and onerous. We can think of it as a huge source of competitive advantage. And that's how I think our clients, especially in financial services, will think about it. And so that's our starting point in thinking about it. Shanker.
Right on. And for the financial institutions, if you think about it as a competitive advantage, which it is, then operational efficiency and regulatory compliance are two sides of the same coin. So rather than thinking about it as a burden, if we think about it as a way of burnishing your brand, while addressing operational efficiency. You can accomplish both of these things with generative AI. It just means reimagining what's possible from a business and process standpoint, and not just thinking about it as a technology or as a regulatory compliance issue. And that's why bringing together the best of IBM technology with all the investments we've made in in standards, whether it be Granite or Instruct Lab or what's the next .gov, .ai, .data, and bringing together our consulting capability where we're not constrained to just IBM technology, but really reimagining the art of the possible from a business standpoint to achieve business outcomes while simultaneously achieving the three things banking CEOs are focused on. How do I achieve growth and differentiation around customers? How do I do it efficiently in a cost-effective fashion? And importantly, how do I do it while managing my risk and regulatory exposure? Balancing those three things requires bringing together the best of IBM, and we are genuinely looking forward to the journey as 8% becomes 80%. Remember, I said only 8% of banks are exploiting generative AI on an enterprise scale, and coming out of the CEO study, we think it's going to move towards 80% in 2025. We couldn't be more excited about the opportunity ahead and how we as IBM can help our clients on that journey.
Fantastic stuff, Shanker. You've almost answered my next question, which is what you particularly look forward to seeing, I guess, over the next year, the next 12 to 18 months. Are there any other trends you're anticipating to see? Anything that you can see coming in the pipeline?
Oh, absolutely. Our clients are going to live in a multi-model world, in a world where the rate and pace of change is going to be extraordinary. And balancing business and technology is going to be key. So our clients are going to have to be ambidextrous. On the one hand, business strategy will continue to drive what we do with technology. But importantly, technology capability now is going to drive the art of the possible around business models. So the next 3 years, we're going to see massive changes in banking business models, and leveraging the power of hybrid cloud, AI and generative AI together with ecosystems and platforms is the key to unlocking the potential, converting potential then into outcomes for clients.
And I'd say, just to build on that, we've got two sides of the coin. We're going to see real learnings and real KPIs being delivered by enterprise AI platforms. We're also going to see some challenging learnings where maybe the AI doesn't quite behave the way it should. And so I'd ask anybody who's considering an AI solution, ask your AI provider, how were those models created? What data sources did you use? Can they be trusted? And look for the answers. And when your AI provider refuses to answer those questions, run for the hills and look for alternatives.